All right, guys. So from our previous class, we talked about um, mockups and prototype. So that was the last class we had for Adobe XD, and then we said that the mockup is more like the actual design of the website. All right. So we said that at the mockup stage is where you use the colors, the identical colors, the images, you know, and the logo that you will use on the website. And then we said the difference between a wireframe, if you notice from the class, the first day of the class, we develop a sketch design, right? And then we use that paper sketch and we input it into Adobe XD. And then we use the paper sketch to design our wireframe in Adobe XD. And then we move from the wireframe over to the mockup, all right? And then we did the prototype. And then if you can remember, we said that the difference between a wireframe and a mockup is that a wireframe is the low fidelity, right, of the website. So when we say low fidelity, it means it doesn't have, it doesn't contain, that kind of, yeah, that attractiveness, all right. And there was a keyword we used in the class, and we said that the wireframe is made of what? Different shades of gray. So for most wireframes that you will see wow, uh, you know, you will see the layout will be in gray and white, and then you will not see any picture. So that symbolizes the frame or the sketch of the wireframe in Adobe XD. And then we said that the mockup is the high fidelity in the sense that the mockup provides more color to make the website interactive, not interactive, but it makes it attractive, right? You see the layout, you see the colors, the identical colors that you will use if you were to build the website. And then we move that design over to the prototype. So we say at the prototype phase is where we link one web page to another, right? So we say that at the prototype phase, we connect these different pages. For example, we connect the home page to the events page. We connect the about us page, to different section on the website. So that's what the prototype is all about. And if you also notice, we did the interaction. For example, if you hover over a button, how it would be like. So guys, welcome to today's class. And in our class today, we'll be taking our design over to Atom and start developing or start coding our website in Atom. So Atom is a text editor, and we use Atom to build HTML pages. All right. So with no delay, guys, we head over to Atom so that we can get started. Okay, before we head over to Atom, the first thing we need to do is to make sure we export these layouts to we export it either PNG or JPG so that we'll be able to see what we are designing, what we are coding in, Atom. So if you have any questions so far, you can ask that question, just unmute yourself and ask the question before we proceed. All right. So if you don't have any questions, so I will just go right ahead and I will export this particular page. So to export this page, all I need to do is to select the page and make sure you go here to where you have layouts and make sure the home page markup. So this page, this layout, which is the home page markup, is what we are exporting. So we are exporting two pages. We are exporting this home page and the events page, the other page right here. So we head over, we go to file, and right under here where we have export, hover over export and go to selected. So the difference between exporting selected and exporting all albums is that if you click on export selected, it will only export this identical page, the one that we selected, which is the home page. But if you click on export all albums, what happens? It will export all the albums in here. And if I'm not mistaken, there are over 20 albums in this design, right? So we'll go right here and click on select, and we export for, you have the format, you can export for PNG, you can export in PNG, sorry, and then SVG, we export in PDF and JPG. So for this, we export in PNG, and then we'll be exporting for design, not for design, but for web, all right? And then we'll design, we'll click on design for 2x, that is, it will export the file twice. And then the last area is the location. So this is where the file will be exported. So the only thing we need to do is to click on export, and then we are done exporting. And the next thing we need to do is to get to the next page, just follow the same protocol. You click on the events page, you come here, file, and then you go to export, you go to selected, and then we, all right, export format is PNG, and then we take our web, everything is already set, and then we click on export. So we come here to our file explorer, come here to pictures. Now if you check here, you see here, this is the event page and this is the home page. So we'll click on the home page here, and we'll load it in our photo, photo editor or whatever it is. So this is the page we're designing tonight in Atom. So I will just zoom so that we can see what we are dealing with here. So I will just zoom up here, right here, and then as you can see it clearly, we'll be designing this page. So we'll head right back. Come on, let me try to get rid of some of these. Let me get rid of this. Close this. Let me unpin, and then maybe, okay. Let me get rid of this as well. Um, okay. So we head over to Atom. So like I said, Atom is a text editing software. Like you have Notepad, you have Notepad plus plus, you have Visual Studio Code. For some of you, you already know what Atom is. All right, so you are familiar with Atom. And if you don't know what Atom is a text editor. Like you have the Visual Studio Code, like you have Notepad plus plus, and what have you. So we can use Atom to build HTML pages. We can also use Atom to also design using CSS. There are so many things you can do with Atom. So as we progress, you will get to know more about Atom. So you can do your research on your free time. So yeah, some of the things that Atom can do. Atom help you to connect to GitHub. So GitHub is a free repository for developers. This is where you test your code live. For example, if you have other developers, like for example, you are part of a team and you are developing a digital product, and you are not the only person working on that digital product, or you are not the only developer. So what happens? GitHub allows you to share your code with other developers. So you can just create your free GitHub account, and then you share your code. You can also get insight from other developers. So it's it's very good for developers. It's an open source platform. So the next thing we want to do here, I hope you guys have already created your Inventor uh, folders. So if you have already done that, well done. Thank you. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a folder. So I'll just click on, let me just close this tab. Let me close this and close this. Right, and also close this. So then I have only this blank screen. Okay, guys. So what I would do here is I haven't created event.com on my computer, so I will just do that from the application. So I'll click on add folder, and then it will take me to my file explorer here. Open this window, and I will just head over to desktop, and then I'll look for a new folder, click on new folder and type in www.eventur. You have already done this, so I'll just do mine quickly. Event.cool. Very good. And I will hit enter. So now I have my folder, and I'll click select folder. So we'll be working in this folder. So the next thing I need to do is to grab my um let me let me take the images folder because we already have that. So let me zoom out quickly. So I'll come here and select the images folder, copy it and move it to that event.cool folder I created on my desktop. All right, so I have the folder here, and the next thing I need to do, I also create my CSS because you did that too. So let me create my CSS folder. So if you check in our event.cool folder, we have the images and we have the CSS, and I hope you guys already have that. So I will go back into the editor, and when you check here now, I have the images and I have the CSS. So I'll just right click on my folder here and add a new file. The name of my new file will be index.html. You already know this. So we already taught our stars that the first page is the index page. All right. And you already know why the index page. So if you don't know why always we use the index page is because whenever you upload the website to a live server and then somebody use the domain, for example, we have www.event.co, and somebody use that browser and type in this domain, and when they hit enter, what happens is that the search engine looks for the index page automatically. It looks for this index page, any index page that you have here in your root folder, which is this www.co folder. If I were to upload this folder to a live server, which I will do at the end of the class. We'll upload it to my server to my website so I can show you exactly how it works. So it will grab this index page and load it automatically. All right. So now we are in the index, the HTML folder and file. So the next thing we need to do is to type the word HTML. So watch as I type HTML, what happens? We have this IntelliSense. So, like most of the modern text editors, they help us. So the intelligence help us to make our work very easy. So I have this intelligence. So once I click on it, I have this bunch of code. So if you already know what this code does or what these codes do, some of you already know. So let me just explain a little bit. So this is what we call an HTML boilerplate. All right. So like for Visual Studio Code, the information in the boilerplate will be, plenty. Like you have the viewport, you have the page metadata and stuff like that. For Atom, these are the information that are contained in the HTML boilerplate. So here we have the first line of this first line of code tells the browser, tells any search engine like Google, like Microsoft Edge, like Firefox, Opera. It tells the browser that this is an HTML document. So the browser renders this document as an HTML document. We already know what HTML is, right? Hypertext markup language. So no need to waste our time. So that's why we have this doc tab.html. So this is very interesting. It's very important to your document. Don't leave this out because this one is rendered by the browser. All right. So always make sure you have this in uh your editor, in your file, every file that you create. So we have the next line of code, which is the HTML. So if you look here, we have the opening tag of the HTML and the closing tag. You can see the blue line here, right? So that means this is where the code begins, the tag begins, and this is where it ends, telling us that everything contained inside of this code, everything inside of the opening and closing tag of the HTML, while they are inside, they are what? Children of this HTML tag. So one thing you will notice is that you hear people saying HTML element and HTML tags. So what they are saying, because the word can be changed into, they are interchangeable. So you hear somebody saying this is an element and this is a tag. So for every HTML element, um, For some editors, you will notice that the color code will be different. So if you notice here for Atom, all the codes that we have in red, all the text we have in red, they represent an HTML element. All right. So you already know that HTML element have a opening tag and they got closing tag. And they have two types of HTML elements, right? We got block elements and we got our inline elements, right? So and we have single tag element. So we'll be discussing all these elements. So the first line here is what HTML element telling us that this the codes in here what they are embedded within this HTML tag. And the next we have what we have two main tags inside of the HTML, two main elements inside of the HTML elements. We have the head and we have the body. So inside of the head is what we have additional information that will be used by uh, that page, right? So for example, we head over here to where we have the title, and I will say the title here is EVENTUR Inventor. Then I will use the pop sign, that pop symbol, which is when you hold that control. Come in, 1 minute. When you hold down, okay, we have this. When you hold down shift the forward slash. All right. Let me see what someone say here. My network is very bad. This is awful. Okay. So when you hold down shift, it will give you that pop sign. And then before there, we put the word home. So indicating that this is a home page. So you already know where this text will take effect where. So if I were to save this file and then I click here, edit and click on copy path, open my web browser Chrome, and then I head over to a new tab. Oh God, this okay. I head over to a new tag here and I paste and I click on go. What happens? We have, I wish I could show you. Okay. So we have the title here, right? So inside the title page, we have Inventor the Home. So the next thing we need to do is to start designing our web page. So we enter into the body tag. So everything that we design will be inside of the body tag. So let's go to the picture here. So we have this beautiful layout here. So I will just zoom this so you can see where we'll start from. Let me zoom out a little bit. Okay. And then if you notice here, we have what? The navigation bar, right? So after the navigation bar, we have the hero section. But then if you take a closer look, we have the navigation bar inside of the hero section. All right, so let's go back to our code. And the first thing we are about to do here is to make sure to always document. So professionally, it is recommended that you document inside of your code. So the best way to document is to comment on every section on your website. So to comment, I don't know how do you use your I don't know how do you comment in your code editor. So the easiest way to edit to comment in your code editor is to hold down control and forward slash on your keyboard. So now I'm holding down control. When I hit forward slash, I have this one. You see, I have the bracket open and I have the exclamation mark dot dot and then I have the space. So in HTML, this is the way you comment on your on any section or comment in your HTML document. So I will just tap here. I will say what home. I will say navigation and navigation and hero section. Okay. So inside of the navigation and hero section, what I want to do here is to create an element called session. So the session element is an element that is introduced in HTML5. I know you have used that. So we use the session element to create new session in our on our website. So if you see here, we have various session. We have here about us. We have the feature. These are different sessions here. So we use that HTML element called session to distinguish between all the sessions we have. So here we use the ID, and then we have an ID of this session called a hero. So indicating that this is the hero session. All right. So if you notice, like we said, we have the red tag, the red text marking as the elements, right? And then we have the orange. So the orange, the text or the text in orange represent the attribute of that element. For example, we have the session element, and one of the attributes of this element is ID. There are so many different attributes will be introduced to. So for now, we use the ID attribute for this session. So we enter into this session, hit down enter, and then what we want to do is to create another comment out here and say this will be what the navigation 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 bar. So right here inside of this hero session, we have the navigation bar. Don't forget. So we say we use the element called nav. Nav is an element here in HTML5. All right. So we use the nav element, and then using this nav element, we have our, let's go to our design. And the first thing we have in our design here on the left to right is, let me see this. Oh, this is William. Okay, so what we have inside of the navigation bar is what? The first is the logo. We have the navigation link in the center. Then we have another link here on the right. So the logo on the left, the links here in the center, and then we have the other links on the left. So how do we do that? Go back to the editor. The first is the logo. So we use an img image tag. So if you notice here, we have the image tag as a single line element. So this image tag doesn't have a closing tag. You understand? So the image tag is an example of a single line element. You understand me? And we have what? Single element, not single line, but it's single element. So we got elements that have a opening and closing tag like the nav here. So the img tag is a single element. So inside of the nav bar, we have the one logo. So we place there, we have the image there as a logo, and then we hit enter, and then we use the UL element, the UL stands for on order list. We use the on order list to have our list item. So inside of the on order list, we have the LR, which stands for list item, right? And then we hit enter. So inside of the list item, we have the anchor tag. Remember, these are our links, right? So we have these links. If you look at the design here, all these are links. So we have to make sure we represent that. So we go back into the code, and then we have this. So we have the list item, and we have the links inside of the list item. So we have inside here, we have the home link. So all we need to do is we just copy this, Control C, and press enter and paste it. How many times we have it here? Let's check in the design. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we paste it 5 times. So we have 2, and then we have 3, and then we have 4, and then we have 5. So all we need to do here is to just change the name of the links. So we have one. We have home, we have about us, features, events, and contact. So get home, we have about us, ABOUT, and US. So if you notice here, we say about us like this, where we close it up instead of creating space like this. So we are using what we call camel case. All right. So this is an example of a camel case. All right. So that's why we have a gem like this. So if you see from our design, looking at design, we also have what the about us gem up like this. So don't think like we are making mistakes. So that's how we did in the design like this. All right, we do it for fashion sake, so you can design any way you like to. So the next thing we want to do here, we have our features, we got events, we have contact. So we go back here, we say features, FEATURES. Make sure we capitalize the F, features, and then we have the next we have is events, EVENTS. The next we have is what? Um, contacts. All right. So we have contact, right? So now, right after this, we have the other one link list. We have the other link here on the left. How do we design that? We go back into the editor, we get outside of this on other list. So we go outside of this on other list, we hit enter, and we create a new on other list. We say inside this new on other list, we have the link here. We copy this link, Control C, we paste here, we paste this, and we change this to what? Sign in, SIGNIN. just like this. And then we have the next link, which is sign up. So inside of the sign up link, we are not using the A anchor tag. We are using button, because if you look here, inside of the design, we have this button. We have the link, we have the sign up inside of a button. So how do we create that effect? We go into the editor. Instead of anchor tag, we'll be using button. So we put a button, and now we have the button here. Inside of this button, and then we put a SIGNUP sign up, just like this. All right, and then we save. Let's see what we have done so far. So let's save it and refresh our browser. So this is the link we have created, right? So just a pure HTML a link. So nothing interesting about it. So we'll go back into the design. The next thing we want to do, we have designed the navigation bar. And then after the navigation bar, we have the hue section here. Huh? So we go back into the editor. We get outside of the nav. So this is the nav bar. So the nav begins here and it ends here. So outside of this nav bar, we hit enter twice. Um, we hit enter twice, and then we come here. We say make sure to comment out and use your comment. And inside the comment, we say what we call this what hero session. HEROSECTION. So now we are initiating the hero session. So we are entering the hero session now. Inside of the hero session, if you look here in the design, we have the text here on the left, and then we have the image on the right. So for now, we'll do the layout, and I will explain why we have to do the layout we're about to do. So inside here, what we want to do is to create our first div, DRV. So we have the first div, and div stands for division. I know you already know what a div is, because some of you have been building pages in HTML. So we have this div, and for now we leave the class empty, and we'll come back, give that class a name. So inside this div, we have two divs. So let's say we have this div, all right. So let's give it a space so that our code can be very clean. So inside this div, we have this first div, and then we have another div. So we create two divs inside of this div. So let's keep it as it is, and I will explain it better. I will explain it later. So inside our first div here, we have the text. So if you look in the design here, we have this text. We have book and create event. So in the class, we say what? We change this from book and create event to what? If if you can create it, they will book it. Don't forget, we did that's what we say in the class. And then we have this huge text here, say the words begin event, and then we have our buttons. So remember, in the design, we say what? This first text, this first text here is what? HTTP element. All right. So this will represent an HTTP element, and our next text here is what? An H1 element. And remember what we say, remember what the rule says. Every page must contain one and only one H1 element. So if you have been designing pages, and if you have been using multiple H1 elements on a single page, please, I appeal to you, always learn to use one and only one H1 element. All right, and I will tell you the reason why it is important. The reason it is important is because whenever Google search engine renders your page, the first thing it looks for is that first H1 element. Always look for the H1 element. That's the first page, that's the first element it grabs. All right, so if you have multiple H1 element on your website, what happens is that it confuses Google. And all these things, it contribute to making your page to rank on Google. So take that into consideration, please. So here we have the first H3 element, and then we have the H1. So go back to the code, and then inside here we say H3, and then we hit enter. So I already have all these text in my HTML, in my how you call it, editor. I open a new and I wrote everything there because I don't want us to waste time. So I will go way up here, and then this is the text we have it. If you can create it, they will book it. So hello guys, are you getting me?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. So sorry, I went off the line. Anyway, I'm back. So let me share my screen quickly so that we can continue. So as I was saying here, we have the text. I already copied the text in my notepad, so I'll just copy here and move to the text editor. And then inside of this H3, I'll paste the text here. If you can create it, they will book it. So the next text is our H1, our only H1 element. Don't forget. So we say H1. This will be the only H1 element on this web page. So I go to the editor here and then I grab the H1 element that will be the text here for the H1 element. I'll copy it and then I'll move it in here and I will paste. And then let me see what we have. So we look in the design after we have this huge text and then we have our two buttons. So we head back into the editor. So right after the H1 here, we press enter. We put our button down, say BUTT. So here we use the button here, we say, and this button is what download DOWN, DOWNLOAD. And then we have the next button, which is also a download button. So we say, well, tap in download right in here. BUTTON. Now we have button. We have the two buttons there. So now the next is we have the two buttons that will go here on the right where we have the image. So to get that image, we go back into the editor and then remember we have a div here, a containing div. So if you know what a nested or if you have read on nested divs, please I want you to read on it. Maybe that could be your assignment. So what we are doing here, we are demonstrating what we call nested div. We have div inside div. So the first div is a container, is a containing div, and this div is containing two separate divs. In the first div, we have our HTTP, H1, and then we have our button. And the first div representing the content that is on the left, and our next div representing the content that are on the right. So come here inside of this div. Remember, this is the div, and then inside this div, we put our IMG. This will be the image tag, and then we'll keep it as it is. When we get there, we put the image. So for now, let's keep it as it is. So now we have design. Let's save. Let's save our work and then refresh the browser and see how far we've gone. So we click here and then refresh. So this is what we have for now. So we don't have any image. So that's why we don't have image displaying. So we'll get our image later. Oh, sorry. I put your button instead of download. So let me go and change it to download. DOWNLOAD. Now we have download. Okay, then we go to our next session. So see the design, we have our next session here. So for now, we are only doing the layout in HTML. So later we'll start doing the CSS. So the next session here is the about us session. So we go into our code and then maybe to not make the editor too buggy with so many text or so many block of code. What we want to do is to just collapse this session. Remember, we have the session here going how you got it the hero session, right? So let's just info here you see this little carrot. Click on the carrot, it will collapse the entire session. So let's get outside of this session and then remember we are documenting on every session, right? Don't forget because we said we have other developers. So from here we are at the front end development, right? So for here we're passing it to back end. So we don't want the back end developers kind of be what struggling to identify these elements in our website on our in our code. So we want to document. So we come here. This session will be we call this session about us. So we put it about us, SECTR about us session. Okay, don't forget, I taught you how to comment. The easy way to comment on in any text editor, whether you're designing in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, any programming, any editor, anything you are doing. The easier way is to hold down Control and press forward slash. It will give you that stuff like that, so you can comment out. So this is the about us session. Remember, we use the HTML element called session. So we use this and then we create the ID, and the ID for this session will be how you call it about us. All right, so we have this about us like this, or we use about dash us like this. So this will be our ID. So inside of this session, what we want to do is if you look here in the design, we have what we have image on the left and then we have the text on the right. So how do we do that? We are going to apply what we call nested div, the same thing we apply up here. So we come here inside of the nested div, we say the first thing we are going to do is to create a div, the containing div, which is just this div, div, create an empty div for now. And then I will explain it later what we are creating our empty div. And then we have the two divs in here. So we have the first div, and then we have the next div. All right. So we have it like this. So I just want you to understand the concept. If you have any question relating to nested div, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. So we go back. So inside here, we have the image on the left, don't forget. So our image will be in the first div, and then our text, our ish element here, and the paragraph here will be on the right. Don't forget. So we go back to the code editor, we come here inside of the first div here, and then we put the img tag, and we'll keep it open for now, and then we go to our second div. Okay, and the img, remember the img will be what? The element here, right? For this image. So inside the second div, we have this element. And from our design, remember what we said, every section will be introduced with our H2 element. Please don't forget that. So all the elements we have